Good day, everyone. Miss Jane, have a good day. For today, we will be talking about an authentic assessment. What does an authentic assessment really is, and how does it differ from a traditional assessment? Now, let me show you first the graphic organizer that we have. All right, it's here. Okay. As you can see, there are different characteristics of an authentic assessment. First, authentic assessment has a meaningful or real-world task. It is where students are required to do the subject, as authentic assessments are allied to a real-world context and constraints. It allows students to feel, think, and act like they are in a real-world situation, just like those experiences and tasks being encountered by practitioners of a specific field. Now, they were being introduced to not just possible but expected things to happen in the future, for future use actually. And in this part, teachers can be able to measure students' ability or knowledge of a content being applied or used in meaningful way. Another characteristic of an authentic assessment is that it has multiple assessments. Multiple assessments in a way that it provides multiple, flexible, acceptable ways or avenues for students to conduct products or performance as evidence of their learning, or to demonstrate best what they have learned that would also help the teachers in judging their skills and knowledge. And then the commonality of all these ways or avenues under authentic assessment is that it all provide a usable diagnostic information about the skills and knowledge of a student. Next to multiple assessments is the student-selected task. This kind of characteristic is making sure that the assessments or tasks to be done by the teacher should be known in advance to the students as much as possible. And this is done so for the reason that there will be nothing to assess if the students themselves do not know or weren't even thought of such thing that the teacher wants to assess. Another characteristic to be discussed is positive interaction, in a way that any assessments or tasks to be done should involves or engages the students in teaching, learning, assessment processes. In other words, student-centered or student-structured. Another thing also is that it requires students to demonstrate proficiency by performing tasks showing application of what they have been learned. And next to positive interaction is higher order thinking, which refers that a task to be done should strengthen the student's ability to reason out, analyze, synthesize, and apply what has been acquired, where students' level of cognitive skills from remembering to creating will be developed or practiced. And it means to say that in a question form, these questions shouldn't be just answerable by yes or no. Rather, it should be an open-ended question, so where students will be able to reason out and explain further, make themselves clear, and to enhance their reasoning skills.
So, construction or constructing knowledge is a collaborative process or processes which aims to provide or to produce new understanding and knowledge. So it is also considered as essential term because the construction knowledge is based on facts and ideas and thoughts about the learner and the students. So the students able to construct themselves creatively or critically because they make concepts with their knowledge and construction. So they're able to conceptualize concepts based on their knowledge and construction because they think critically, so they're able to construct their knowledge through themselves. And lastly, the students can learn by connecting their knowledge from present to the past, so they're able to connect it with their existence or the existing knowledge, and with it the concepts can be learned and can make it as a learning. So the second one is solo collaborative performance. So it means that it is significant and useful enough because the learner can connect and assimilate their ideas through the form of collaboration. We know that the fact that collaboration has a greater impact when in terms of studying and learning. So in that way, students are able to talk with their friends and collaborate and can make an interaction towards their peers, teacher, and classmates. So uh, they can able to share opinions and ideas. So the third one is the transfer of learning. So transfer of learning, this could be done different way or in different aspect. So the best example for this is the idea of the usefulness of media. So the media can be that a transfer for learning, respectively. Like for example, to show narration, show imagery, show illustration about certain concepts they wanted to know. So there any tutorials they can have, they can see in the media, like for example YouTube, so they can able to get some information out of it, and they can able to share it with their friends. So it can also be collaborate with any form of learning. So another way around, it also facilitate a new context that they can able to possibly share with their friends. So with their learning, because it encourages uh, different aspects of learning. So in that way, transfer of learning is best possible to happen. So in that way, students can able to get some informations out of it, so then they can able to share it to their friends or in any classroom, no, and in a discussion. So the fourth one is allows for multiple solutions. So students nowadays, or 21st century, when able to think creatively and critically, that's the good example. So they able to make a solution out of the big problem. So they able to make they solve it, so in a form of creative, and the cognition or the metacognition would be best exercise, because they able to think and analyze a certain idea or certain problems and make solution or construct solution out of it. So the fifth one is the reflection assessment. So after making which, the students able to done the performance, then the homework, doing activities, such activities, and make some judgments. So they able to self-assess themselves, because self-assessment is very important, because they can able to reflect, assess, and make judgment of how they work, how they do their performance, and how do they think, or how do they respond to a certain situation, or how do they solve a certain problem.
Take assessment can be formative or continuous. Continuous assessment is formative by nature. The key here is that the collection of data about students' understanding of concepts and their practice of the process and habits of mind of science happens while students are engaged in learning. When these data are used by teachers to make decisions about next steps for a student or a group of students, to plan instruction and to improve their own practice, they help inform as well as form practice. It is a formative assessment. Continuous assessment will often include some form of formative assessment as well. And another is the emphasis problem solving. So in authentic assessment, there is an emphasis in problem solving because authentic assessment is a real world task. So they need to emphasize on how they solve the specific problem. So it require a highly quality product or performance and a justification of the solutions to problems encountered. Correctness is not the only criterion. Students must be able to justify their answers. And another is the specific purpose and the audience. An authentic assessment, there is a specific purpose, of course, and the audience. Its purpose is for measuring student learning by providing developmentally appropriate student-centered active learning strategies that help students develop lifelong learning competency, such as effective decision making, communication, and cooperation. The student, teacher, and parents are good audiences to follow the story of students' progress on a certain project or in the development of certain skills. Then you can include also the the specific audience, like the it can be class or classmates. It could be, but it depends on the specific situation. And also it can be the employers or colleges, local community, or the school board. And another is the lastly the integration of knowledge and skills. Authentic assessment is the idea of using creative learning experiences to test students' skills and knowledge in realistic situations. It provides usable diagnostic information about student skills and knowledge. The assessment is designed to improve future performance, and students are important consumers of such information. They are likely to be more valid than conventional tests, particularly for learning outcomes that require higher order thinking skills, like a task that is multifaceted and complex. Even if there is a right answers, isolate them in particular skills or facts because they involved in real world tasks. They are also like to be more interesting and thus more motivating in um, that kind of assessment. And finally, they can provide more specific and usable information about what students have succeeded in learning as well as what they have not learned. And simply put, that authentic assessment is one that requires students to apply that they've learned in a new complex circumstances or situations. So that would be all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Ken and I'm going to discuss the difference between authentic and traditional assessment. As we all know that in every assessment that we had has always a purpose. The purpose of traditional assessment is to evaluate if the students have learned the content, to determine whether or not the students are successful in acquiring knowledge. That is why the teacher will give us a summative, final exams to know or to evaluate if we really understand the content or if we really learned the content or the topic that we had been going through. And also the teacher can determine if the students not successful in acquiring knowledge by having a low grades. While the purpose of authentic assessment is to measure students' proficiency by asking them to perform real-life tasks, to provide students many avenues to learn and demonstrate what they have learned following the guided instruction and evaluate students' competency. It is to measure the students if they are proficient in doing a task that is real life situation, or if they really acquire their skills in doing a certain task, if they really applied knowledge in performing a task that is exactly what is existing in real life. So, diba, authentic assessment, that's the purpose of authentic assessment. The second one is provides teacher snapshot of what the students know. So basically, that is why there is a diagnostic task that the teacher gave to us, to know if we really know about a certain topic. Like for example, before the discussion, the teacher will give a diagnostic task for the teacher to know nga, kabaw na ang mga estudyante ani kidago sila scores. But always remember, dili ni siya recorded ha, nga ang diagnostic test. While the authentic assessment is to provide teachers a more complete illustration of what students know and what they can do with what they know. It provides the teachers a more complete illustration kung ang mga nahibawan ba sa bata gigamit niya sa katong pagbuhat nila og task. If they really use their if they really acquire their skills in doing a certain task. The third one is to measure students' knowledge of the content. As what I have mentioned a while ago, diba, the teacher will give us the summative, mga exams, mga final, mga inana, so that the teacher will know or will measure if the students really learn the content. Sa mga mga dagko-tag scores, so malipay ang maestra, my students really understand my topic. My students really learned the topic that I have been discussed to them. That's a prize for the teachers. Well, the authentic assessment is to measure students' ability to apply knowledge of the content in real life situation, ability to apply what they have learned in meaningful ways. As what I mentioned a while ago, where the students thoughtfully apply their acquired skills to a new situation or environment. So in doing a task, the teacher will measure if the students really acquire these skills in doing a certain task, if they apply the knowledge in performing a task. The next one is, in a traditional assessment, it requires students to demonstrate knowledge by selecting a response, giving correct answers, usually test students' proficiency through papers and pencils. Students are asked to choose an answer from a set of questions, true or false, multiple choice, or to test knowledge of what has been taught. So, diba, as what I have mentioned a while ago, nga, the teacher will give us a summative, mga that is true or false ba na siya, or multiple choice ba na siya. It is to test the knowledge of what has been taught to us, para makaibaw ang teacher if we really understand or learn that a certain topic. Well, the authentic assessment, it requires students to demonstrate proficiency by performing relevant tasks showing application of what has been learned. So, siya mura siya balik-balik lagi siya ang giingon sa authentic assessment, like it requires the students to demonstrate proficiency by performing relevant tasks. Diba? Like they need to acquire their skills in doing or in performing a task. That is why that a teacher will know through a rubrics. Like for example, in writing a poem, if the students will know if the students are really good at it, Naiuban ay nindutan niya mo buhat og poem oy naiuban pod nga okay siya magbuhat og poem na po uban nga dili pod mao na to know bitaw sa maestra if they really acquire their skills in doing a task.
Hi, it is another continuation of what are the difference between traditional assessment and authentic assessment. First, traditional assessment provides indirect evidence of learning. The teacher in traditional assessment are only focusing on collecting data. Like for example, they are giving portfolio, journal, or any written outputs or written assessment. While in authentic assessment, it provides direct evidence of learning or competency, direct demonstration of knowledge and skills by performing relevant tasks. Teachers here in authentic assessment are actually assessing the performance of the learners. They are witnessing what are the performance of the learners. Like for example, they are giving role play, reporting, or any oral assessment. Next is, in traditional assessment, requires students to practice cognitive ability to recall or recognize or reconstruct body of knowledge that has been taught. The students here in traditional assessment are only focusing on what has been taught, and the learning is stiff, while in authentic assessment, it provides opportunities for the students to construct meaning or new knowledge out of what has been taught. The students here in authentic assessment can think outside the box, can think beyond what has been taught, and they can evaluate or create things that based on the learnings they learn. Next, in traditional assessment, it tests and strengthens the student's ability to recall, recognize, and comprehend content, but does not reveal the student's true progress of what they can do with the knowledge they acquired. Only the student's lower level of thinking skills, knowledge, and comprehensions are tapped. Yes, in traditional assessment, they are not tapping the higher level of skills. They're only focusing on remembering. They're only focusing on memorizing the knowledge. While in authentic assessment, it tests and strengthens the student's ability to reason and analyze, synthesize, and apply the knowledge acquired. Students' higher level of cognitive skills, from knowledge and comprehension to analysis, synthesis, application, and evaluation, are tapped in multiple ways. Here in authentic assessments, the higher order thinking skills are being tapped. They are being exercised in this area. Next slide. In traditional assessment, the teachers hide the test. Like for example, in periodical tests, the students does not know what are the questions, the possible answer of the assessment that the teachers made. While in authentic assessment, it teaches the test. The teacher teaches strategies or any way to apply good presentation. Like for example, in based on experience in my last year level, the teacher giving us strategies how to report confidently, and also in our myth, the teacher gave us some strategies to have a role play that is very comprehensible and authentic. Next, in traditional assessment, teachers serve as evaluators and students as the evaluates. Teacher structured, which means in teacher structured, a student attention will understandably be focused and limited to what is the test. So in this area, it is very limited. While in authentic assessment, it involves and engages the students in the teaching, learning, and assessment process. Students structured in this in authentic assessment. In this area, students structured. The student it allows the students choice and construction in determining what is presented as evidence of proficiency. So they can engage in learning. While in traditional learning, here it's teacher structured, only focus on the teacher. There is no engaging. There is no relationship between students and teacher. While here in authentic assessment, there is a relationship. They can give their opinion, like they can give their what is in their mind. So that's it. Thank you.
For our next slide, it is still traditional versus authentic assessment. In traditional assessment, assessment is separated from teaching and learning. Test usually comes after instruction to evaluate if the students have successfully learned the content. The assessment should be given after all the discussion and introduction given by the teacher, while in authentic assessment, assessment is integrated with instruction. Assessment activities happen all throughout instruction to help students improve their learning and help teachers improve their teaching. Tests and assessments are given throughout the discussion or while the teacher is discussing, and also the instruction is given for them to have a communication within the teacher and the students. Next is traditional assessment. In traditional assessment provides limited ways for students to demonstrate what they have learned. They have only a limited access or ways to show what they have learned, while in authentic assessment it is flexible and the teacher provides multiple acceptable ways of constructing product or performances as evidence as of learning. The teacher gives a lot or many ways to conclude if the assessment given or the assessment given is helping the students learn. While in traditional, the assessment given are rigid and fixed, or it is standardized, valid, and reliable. While authentic assessment, it needs well-defined criteria or rubrics, the standards to achieve reliability and validity. Well, lastly, traditional assessment is the curriculum drives the assessment. While in authentic assessment, it is the other way around. It is the assessment drives the curriculum and the instruction.